Joe Biden botches the Afghanistan withdrawal. The DOJ drops charges, and Andrew Cuomo goes down in flames. I'm Yo Grabba Gabba. This is the new Cancel This show. I'm Yo Grabba Gabba. This is the new Cancel This show, the show that fights back against cancel culture and annoys the woke folk. Forgive me, Father. It has been way too long since my last show. This is Cancel This episode 22, recorded early September 2021. Yes, it's been a few weeks since I last recorded. It's been a very, very busy few weeks. But I'm getting a show out now. A lot to go over, so I'm going to dive right into it here. Be sure to subscribe if you miss anything. Like our Facebook page, facebook.com/PavementRoadProductions. You can email the show directly at pavementroadproductions@gmail.com and share the post. Subscribe right there on YouTube so you don't miss anything. A lot of new content coming out here. Some reality TV stuff as well in the next few weeks or months. So definitely subscribe so you get all that as well. And we're going to try and do some sports stuff come up here as well as the NFL season gets underway. So let's dive in here with the Afghanistan. Obviously, a lot has happened since we last recorded. So I'm going to start with Afghanistan, the debacle that was the Afghanistan withdrawal. So a lot of information going out around about the Afghanistan withdrawal. A lot of it, some of it's true, some of it not true. But here's what we know. As of August 31st, the United States pulled out of Afghanistan, pulled all the remaining troops out of Afghanistan, and ended the 20-year war in Afghanistan. The war started in 2001 after 9/11. Now, there's several problems with what happened. Obviously, the bombing that killed 13 servicemen. There's several others that are wounded as well. Deadliest day in Afghanistan was one of the last days we had. Yeah, one of the deadliest days, in deadliest days in years. But we have to trust the Taliban. We're being told we have to trust the Taliban. We have to trust the Taliban to keep their word. Well, let me ask you this: who is responsible for this bombing? Right? Who's responsible for killing all these servicemen? Usually, when you pull out and you have peace, it's not the day after, or a couple days after 13 people are killed in one of the deadliest days in years. That's usually not the best time to pull out. Now, of course, Joe Biden, the world leader, the buck stops here, he says. He's blaming Trump for everything, of course. Because that's how it works. When things go wrong, you just lie and let the media cover for you. You just lie, the media won't push back, and they'll cover for you. And then eventually they'll forget about it and move on to something else. So Biden is lying. He said that it was Trump's plan, and they had to put it in place, and it didn't work, and it's Trump's fault. But the truth is, Trump's plan had to withdraw in May. And if Trump was reelected, he probably would have pulled out in May. He had pushback, and the way things were going to be done in Syria, there was debate about it, and they changed it and they did it differently. But Afghanistan was a complete total disaster on the withdrawal. Complete disaster. So let's go ahead and talk about some of the things that Biden lied about, first of all. He lied and said there's nobody they wouldn't leave anybody behind. Well, factually, there are several people left behind, at least hundreds, if not thousands, of people left behind. Afghanistan, by the way, still has its Twitter account. The Taliban still has its Twitter account, even though they're killing people left and right, just murdering people in the streets. Going door to door, killing Christians, for example. And people who worked with the U.S. government, interpreters and whatnot. Biden left all kinds of equipment behind. Now, how much equipment? Well, a lot. The exact dollar amount isn't clear. but they have drones. They have let's say they have helicopters. They have weaponry. They have night vision glasses. They have ammunition. They have firearms. I mean, really, whatever they need. They have whatever they need. I mean, they want to, they want to have a strong army. They have one of the biggest armies now, one of the highly funded armies in the world right now, thanks to the U.S. Right? Their leader, or their second in command, whatever, was in prison. He was captured, and Barack Obama let him out of jail. He was one of the masterminds behind 9/11. And Barack Obama, he got like 10 years in prison for killing 3,000 Americans. That's fine. Good enough. They traded him for Bo Bergdahl, the defector. They traded him and 4 others for Bo Bergdahl. So you don't leave anybody behind except for the people who defect, apparently. But all these people were left behind. And there's lots of private agencies who are trying to get people out because the U.S. government was failing at getting everybody out. So when you get somebody out of a foreign country, you have to work with the State Department. The State Department has to approve of the new place for them to land. Obviously, you're not going to be able to fly them from Afghanistan to the U.S. without landing. Especially since there's no fueling in Afghanistan, and you only have less than an hour to be on the tarmac before you have to move in Afghanistan. So they have to work with the State Department to find a neighboring country from the land and then take the refugees until they can get them somewhere else, either to the U.S. or to another permanent location. And according to multiple sources, the State Department is refusing to allow this to happen. In fact, planes have taken off with clearance, and they had their clearance revoked mid-flight until they had to return to Afghanistan. Well, why? It's funny because you can open up the floodgates and let anybody who wants to come through the southern border come in. Like, literally anybody. They don't even have time or the capacity to process them. So you have to give them a appearance ticket and say, come back if you'd like. Come to court if you'd like. Of course, who's going to come to court? So that's how it happened at the southern border. Meanwhile, Afghanistan, you have vetted people. We know who they are. We have all the details. But they can't come across. They can't come back to the U.S. A lot of them are Christian. Do you think that's something to do with it? I do. I think the State Department doesn't want doesn't want refugees from Afghanistan who are Christian. Because Christians don't vote Democrat in most cases. Most Christians don't vote Democrat. Catholics don't like Joe Biden in a lot of cases. So let's not import them. Let's import people from Latin America who want free stuff. And then they'll vote for free stuff, aka the Democrat Party. The party of free stuff. The party of Santa Claus. So Joe Biden lies about people being left behind. They're still being left behind now, even though they said they got everybody out. They didn't. They know they didn't. There's people who are left there. And they say, well, we got everybody who wanted to come, was the other lie. Well, I can't say Afghanistan's a major tourist destination, right? I can't say Afghanistan's a major tourist destination. I mean, it doesn't really happen that way. That people go to travel for fun in Afghanistan. And then, I think it was Secretary of State, is that Blinken? One of them said, it's like, the people who are left there, it's like losing their passport and like on vacation. That's definitely not true. Because most times when you're on vacation, if you're at a resort and you lose your passport, there's not people coming to your house trying to kill you, in most cases. And I've been on some crazy vacations, but I've never had somebody come to my place of residence trying to kill me. Yet. Maybe I haven't been to enough vacations. So that's another lie. What other lies? So many. They're just making things up as they go. I mean, they're literally just making things up. Just saying whatever they think the American people want to hear. And they're not getting nearly as much pushback as they want. I mean, they're telling the people in Afghanistan, the American people in Afghanistan, come to the airport, come to the Kabul airport, and we will pick you up, and we'll take you on a flight out of Afghanistan. Come to the Kabul airport. Well, a lot of people couldn't get to the Kabul airport. So to help facilitate that, the U.S. government gave a list to the Taliban of people to let through. Now, if those people couldn't make it, and then the U.S. pulls out, what's going to happen to those people? Do you think the Taliban's going to round them up and say, "Oh, come on, it's okay. You can still come. We'll fly you out, or we'll call the U.S. and we'll get you out." No, those people are going to be dead because they were abandoned by Joe Biden. Abandoned. Now, not only do they give a list to the Taliban, and we have to trust that they're going to know what they're supposed to be doing, and they're going to do their job, and they're gonna not kill people. They're not going to just run through the streets and kill people and shoot them in the face, and go in their houses and kill them and capture 12-year-old girls and sell them into sex slavery. They're not going to do that. They learned their lesson. They're the new modern Afghanistan. Please. And yet, who did the terrorist attack? Who did? There's a suicide bomber that got through 3 checkpoints before they killed those people at the Kabul airport. Well, who? Oh, it's ISIS-K. ISIS-K. Okay. Well, I mean, is Afghanistan now? I mean, if the Taliban are our new allies, right? They're our new allies because we're going to give them money in exchange for letting our people come back, and we're giving them all these supplies and all this stuff. We're leaving all this stuff for them, but they're not going. We're just gonna leave them all this stuff. They can have all whatever weapons and all the money they need and everything like that. They're new allies. Are our new allies now going to help track down the people who killed our soldiers on their soil? Because U.S. servicemen being killed on foreign soil could be an act of war. But the Taliban's not going to search for them, not going to go hunt them down. I mean, is it possible that the Taliban helped fund that? And we know that the Taliban had Al-Qaeda training camps operating on their soil. They had terrorist training camps operating in Afghanistan. Is it possible that they had something to do with this attack too? Wouldn't surprise me. Wouldn't surprise me. But we have to trust the Taliban. We have to trust that they want to be a part of the world. They want to be part of the Western world. Trust me, they don't. We were teaching them women's rights and gay pride and all this stuff. And most of the Afghans don't want that. Most of the Afghans want to live the way they've been living their entire existence. But now we have to force it down their throats that they don't want. It's insane. Pure insanity. But again, from a military standpoint, you have $1 billion airbase. $1 billion airbase, and you just leave it. You just abandon it in the middle of the night with no warning. Just like the president of Afghanistan fled in the middle of the night. He was handpicked to put in position by the U.S. He was a professor in the United States, and they sent him back to Afghanistan to be their president. They put him in power in Afghanistan. And as soon as things got a little bit weird, he left. Things got a little bit dangerous, he left. Because he was a coward. Because he's a leftist, Democrat, liberal, who's a coward, just like Joe Biden. So, and one of the greatest, obviously you give up a very strategic airbase. Okay, you give up a strategic airbase, leave all this stuff there in the middle of the night, just give it up. Didn't tell anybody. The Allies are upset. When France is going into Afghanistan to get their people out, and the U.S. is not, When the French are the ones who are brave and the U.S. is not, that's a problem. We told the people to get to Kabul and we'll fly you out. We didn't go into Afghanistan and get them. We didn't go get them and bring them to Kabul to fly them out. We said, get yourselves here. It's like a wounded soldier who gets injured and you tell him, well, walk to the base. I know you got your leg blown off, but you just crawl to the base. It's fine. No, you go get them. I mean, when it's safe, but you go get them. That's the job of the military, to protect the U.S. citizens. Not to leave them and say, get yourself here if you can. If not, we'll leave without you. And the General Milley and all of them, they said that they were shocked that the Taliban government fell so fast, or that the Afghan government fell so fast, and that the Afghan army didn't stand up and didn't fight and all those things. Well, some of them did. Some of them fought, but they got overwhelmed very quickly by the Taliban. They should have pulled out in the winter, when the Taliban would have been less active. They're way more active in the summer. They fight way more in the summer than they do in the winter. It's cold in the winter. They don't want to fight in the winter. And abandoning strategic air bases is not a good way to do it. And then the Taliban was negotiating with the State Department, which you don't negotiate with terrorists, but they did. And they said, all right, we'll give you two options. Either you can control the airport, or you can control the city. Option A, option B. And they chose to control the airport. So they let the city of Kabul fall to the Taliban and then said, get to the airport. So not only do you have to get through the rest of the country that's under Taliban control, now you have to get through the city of Kabul to then get to the airport so we can fly you out. How about you tell the Taliban no? How about you say, you're negotiating with the Taliban for months and you don't know they're going to take over the country? You don't know that they're not going to hold? I mean, are you kidding me? The president of Afghanistan flees without telling anybody. Neither one of his vice presidents. And the Taliban swoops in and takes over the country. In 72 hours? Ridiculous. Horribly botched. Horribly botched. And then, and not only all that, not only all this, I mean, again, the generals have no idea what they're doing. I mean, they screwed this up as bad as anybody could screw it up. I mean, really, there's no way anybody could screw this up even worse. Complete total botchery, complete total disaster. And they said, there's no one, we don't know for sure that they're gonna fall. There's no, it's not a sure thing. I mean, it clearly was. I mean, Biden. Now, keep in mind, Biden was saying and Jen Psaki is his flack was saying when Trump had a call with Ukraine that they should impeach him for that phone call and impeach him and investigate him because talk to the whistleblower who said that the call was bad. Well, Joe Biden had a call with the Afghan president. And told the Afghan president basically to fake it till they make it. Said, if you think the country is going to fall to the Taliban, just say it's not. Just put on a face that says it's not going to fall. Just put on a front and just lie to everybody saying, we're in control, we'll be good, even though you knew they weren't, and everybody knew they weren't, and the advisors knew that it was going to fall when they pulled out. But Biden was standing there lying the whole time. It's not going to fall. Well, if we impeach Trump over a phone call where he asked them to investigate crimes in his own country, how about we investigate Biden for telling a president and for lying to telling a president of a foreign country to lie and covering up the fact that he's lying to the American people? I mean, all this money that went to train the Afghan government, train the Afghans. I mean, we're paying all these Afghans all this money. And they take the money and run before they die. Before they have to fight, before they get killed by the Taliban before they have to stand up for the country. They take the money we gave them and run. And meanwhile, we're going to keep pouring money into them. Keep pouring money into the Taliban. We're going to give money to the Taliban. We already have. Terrorists. We're fighting terrorists. You know, it's funny. We gave all this money to Iran, right? All this money to Tehran, you know, in Iran. And the mullahs. And we fund Pakistan. We funded Pakistan, all this stuff. So we gave all this money to Pakistan to help their army. They didn't need it all, so they gave some to the Taliban. The Taliban then took over Afghanistan. I mean, it's absurd. The fact that we're spending all this money on all parts of the world, we're the quote-unquote richest country in the world. We're in debt over almost $20 trillion in debt, or more at this point. 20 trillion. Can you imagine that? It's not even a number. We're spending trillions of dollars. Biden wants to spend another $5 trillion in infrastructure. That isn't even infrastructure. It's just stuff he wants to call infrastructure. Spending all this money on all this stuff. All these parts. So now they're giving weapons to people who are using those weapons to kill us. Idiotic. Insane. And he has no idea what he's doing. He sees the Gold Star families, people who lost their children, and he talks about his son. I guess he's trying to relate because his son died, but like, that's not how you do it. They died because of your incompetence, Joe. You don't want the U.S. to be embarrassed. That's why we need to vote for Biden, because he's gonna bring America back, and they're not gonna be embarrassed by people like Trump, who's an embarrassment to the country. Really, because our allies don't want to deal with this anymore. The British Parliament had a meeting to discuss if they should work with the Biden-Harris administration going forward, because they didn't do anything. They left their people alone. They left the allies. They did all these things without telling their allies. The French are braver than the United States. The French. Are you kidding me? An embarrassment. We had our Saigon moment. Biden said, oh, this won't be a Saigon moment. Literally, there are people, they're flying out of Afghanistan, people loaded in planes, COVID be damned, by the way, loaded in planes to fly them out of Afghanistan on military transport planes. And people are clutching the wings, grabbing onto the wings. People got caught in the wheels. They found body parts in the wheels. People are holding on the wings and falling off over the water, falling off the plane when the plane's in the air. That's our Saigon moment, because they're abandoning them. Instead of telling the Taliban, no, you can't come in until we are sure everybody's out of here. No, they're going to say, you want to come in and take over the country? Come in and take over the country. It's fine. We'll move however you want us to move. No, that's not how it works. I'm sorry. It's not how it works. Biden wanted to be the one who ended the war, who pulled people out of the country, who on September 11th could say, on the anniversary of September 11th, could say, we got out of Afghanistan. Okay. Well, now the Taliban is in control. 20 years later, we're in the same spot we were, if not worse, because now they have all our equipment, all this money. Thanks for that, Joe Biden. Appreciate it. But at the end of the day, we can say one thing for certain. All this diversity, right? They're teaching diversity to the Afghans, right? The Afghans, I mean, I feel like a lot of the Afghan soldiers who didn't want to fight didn't want to fight because they're being indoctrinated by the U.S. They're saying how gay rights and women's rights. How about you just let soldiers be soldiers? How about you let them blow stuff up? Most people join the military for reasons other than diversity. Okay? They want to blow stuff up, a lot of them. They want to fight back against the enemy. They don't want to be indoctrinated. They don't want to be told that their white rage is horrible. Right? General Milley, you moron. How do you have a job? How have you not resigned or been fired? You're talking about white rage and White supremacy, the biggest threat to America is white supremacy. How about the Taliban that you just put in power? How about we talk about them? How about that's your focus? But at least all these people who are dying, all the blood on the hands of all these idiots, at least they're very diverse hands. At least the blood's on diverse hands. Because it's a very diverse group of people. Minorities and women and LGBTQ. All the people who died. The blood is on the hands of very diverse people. Incompetent as all hell, clearly, but diverse. And that's all that matters. Wokeness. America. The laughing stock of the world. Screwing over our allies. Leaving our own people to die. But diverse. What's going to be the fallout? Is Milley going to still be around? Is the SecDef going to still be around? Is the Secretary of State still going to be around? Are any of them going to still keep their jobs? I'm sure they all will, right? I'm sure nobody's going to lose their job. I'm sure they're all going to keep their job. Because one thing we learned from Biden, most Democrat politicians are the same. Most are the same people. Democrats are great at politics. They're great at it. Everything is political to Democrats. Literally everything. We'll get more on that in a little bit, but everything is political. Like everything. And they're good at it. They're good at BS. They're good at spin. They're good at lying. Obama, for 8 years, was blaming Bush for everything that went wrong. Everything that Obama did wrong, he blamed Bush for. He said, I inherited a mess. I had to clean up the mess. You actually didn't inherit much of a mess. And the mess that you inherited was Democrat policies that Bush didn't fight it hard enough against. Like the housing crisis. But you created it. A lot of it was your fault. Obama in 2015 is blaming something Bush did in 2002. Because everything that went wrong was Bush's fault. Everything that went right is he gets credit for. None of the blame, all the credit. That's leadership, baby. That's leadership. And that's, of course, what Biden's doing. The buck stops here. If it goes well, of course. If it goes well, I get credit for it. If it goes poorly, it's Trump's fault. So, of course, he's not going to take blame for it. Of course, there's not going to be anybody going to get in trouble for this or anybody get fired for this pure incompetence. Why would they? Biden saying this was a great success. All the people, a bunch of people died, a bunch of people got abandoned, and some people got out. It's the biggest airlift in the history of the world. Okay, well, first of all, there weren't planes in the 1800s, so you couldn't have an airlift. So the history of the world, it's like the history of the last 60 years. Okay, A. B. If somebody has never walked before, if a baby learns how to walk, they're instantly walking 100% more than they had before they learned how to walk. If you screw something up miserably, and then because you screwed up miserably, have to do a heroic effort to fix the screw up, you don't get credit for the fixing the screw up. You get blame for the screw up that put you there in the first place. The heroic effort by people who aren't you don't get credit for that. You get blamed for the screw up that put him in that spot. Unbelievable. And they'll all keep their jobs. Of course they will. A lieutenant, I guess, or whatever, a colonel, stepped up. He said that somebody needs to be held accountable for all these people who died, for the people whose families were killed, for the men and women with a 2-month-old baby or whatever. 2-month-old baby was killed. A woman with a 2-month-old baby. And he says there needs to be accountability. They fire him. Fired. How dare you say we need accountability? We're all about accountability and transparency, but if you say we need accountability, you're fired. And I'm gonna wrap up this section. And I could go on this for another 3 hours, but it's just outrageous. It's outrageous, and people who don't pay attention, they might actually think that they did a good job. Biden's approval rating, thankfully, on Afghanistan is like 30%. It should be lower, but about 30%. Pitiful. Absolutely ridiculous. He should not be commander-in-chief. He should be removed from office. You want this moron who can't string together a sentence in charge of the nuclear codes? Are you kidding me? He doesn't understand that strategic air bases are important. He doesn't believe that. He doesn't understand. He's going to negotiate with terrorists. The people who literally, the same people who planned 9/11, who killed 3,000 Americans. Oh, they're different now. They learned their lesson. BS. They're back in power. The same people. We have to negotiate with them. They want to be part of the world now. No, they don't. They want your money, so you're gonna say it. You got how many years? We got duped for 20 years, folks. We got duped by people for 20 years who just wanted our money and our guns. And Biden is hook, line, sinker, all for it. Oh yeah, absolutely. The Taliban, who rape women, stone women for being, then stone them for being raped, who live under Sharia law. They only part of the Western world. That's not true. And if you believe them, you're a moron. You are a moron, Joe Biden. You are a moron. You get the hell out of our country. All this blood is on your hands, and you're saying you did a great job. You're patting yourself on the back and leaving blood stains on your back from the blood on your hands. Kamala Harris said she was in on this too. She said she was in on the planning of this. We haven't heard from her. She's in hiding. Absolutely ridiculous. Disgrace to the office. Disgrace. He brought so much shame to our country. But I guess that's what he wanted because he hates the country just as much as all the other radical leftists do. Ridiculous. Meanwhile, to wrap this up, I saw that the NFL is going to come back with their end racism stuff on their helmets and in the end zone and stuff like that, right? And they can put names of police brutality victims on their helmets. How about the 13 servicemen who died in Afghanistan? How about them? How about you put their names on your helmets? How about you say their names? But no, we can't do that. 20-year-olds who were not even born yet or were babies when 9/11 happened gave their lives in this war. Just recently. Because Joe Biden trusts the Taliban. They asked him, do you trust the Taliban? Is that a serious question? Well, you're acting like you do, Joe. You're negotiating with them. You're negotiating in good faith with a terrorist organization who wants to kill you. A terrorist organization who funds terror, who sponsors terror, you're negotiating with them. They want to kill you. They want to kill Americans. But you're not going to negotiate with them? And then you say, I don't trust them. Of course I don't trust them. You're an idiot. You're a failure. You're a disgrace. People are comparing you to Jimmy Carter. How dare they? Jimmy Carter was way better than you. Horrible. You're a disgrace. And I hope you resign in shame. I really, really do. So let's go ahead and switch gears here, if we can. I want to talk a little bit about the DOJ dropping charges and things like that. So obviously it's not as big of a story as Afghanistan. It's not the same, gravity or weight or anything, but it kind of is a microcosm for the rest of the country. I mean the government. I mean if you trust if you most people know who listen to the show know my bent, know how I feel about certain things, but there's zero credibility in any government agency. I mean bureaucracy, anything. I mean they want us to do all these things, and all these young people who are college students and all that, they want to give their freedom and let the government just be in control because the government's fine, the government's good. But the thing is, the government is as corrupt as anything else. There's no way that you should trust the government to do anything. I mean, people in the government are rich. They're all loaded. There are so many millionaires. And then they became millionaires by being in Congress. Or becoming president. They became millionaires by becoming, So, the fact that you want to trust them, and they say, oh, European countries, they trust their government. Yeah, well, guess what? There's a lot of money to be had in America. A lot. And if you control who gets it, you're probably going to give a lot to yourself. Right? If you're a government official and you want to redistribute wealth, you're probably going to get a lot of it. How come all communist leaders are rich? The people don't have bread, but the leaders are rich because they control where the money goes. So when they want you to trust them and just hand over your freedom to them and they'll take care of it for you, you're an idiot. Never do that. Ever. And another example of the many is the DOJ, Department of Justice. When they prosecute one person for a crime and then don't prosecute another person for the same exact crime or a worse crime, you know that it's corrupt. You know you can't trust it. There are basically zero organizations that have not been overrun by communists or leftists or politicians. Corruption. Everything is political. Everything. You can't watch sports. You can't go to a movie. You can't read a book. You can't go to school. You can't turn on the news without it being political, without it being politicized. And the thing is, of course, it's not even about politics. It's not. It's not about that at all. So many times we have organizations that you don't even realize are giving you political messages. And all the time I see these people who are like, oh, well, why do you care? Just who cares that the NFL is going to have woke slogans? Well, if it was going against what you believed, you'd be upset. But since it's not, you're fine with it. And that's the problem. We don't have enough classical liberals anymore. People who maybe disagree with you on tax policy, but believe in your rights of free speech, believe in freedom. The more you give, the more they're going to take. Don't you understand? So, for example, the Department of Justice, just this week, prime example, they are prosecuting a white man for getting an altercation with a black reporter who was covering Hurricane Ida. And he got in an argument with the black man, and there was stuff said, and they charged him with some disturbing the peace and whatever. Meanwhile, a Antifa rally, a BLM rally, saw a private journalist, citizen journalist, get attacked with pipes and beaten up in the street. No charges. So one man gets in a yelling match, maybe a little shoving match. Another one gets beaten with a pipe. Nothing. Attacked with a skateboard. Nothing. They won't charge the looters and rioters all over the country. All the BLM rioters, all that stuff. They're getting bailed out of jail by the vice president. See what side she's on. And the Department of Justice, the attorneys at the Justice Department, drop the charges. Drop all the charges. So, but yet they charge the couple in Missouri who were standing outside their house with guns when the BLM protesters came by for threatening the BLM protesters. You're not going to charge people who break into my house and beat the hell out of me and steal my stuff and burn my house down, potentially, and destroy my property. You're not going to charge them with a crime. But if I defend that property with my firearm, I'm going to be charged with a crime. It's absurd. Absolutely ridiculous. Insane. No civilized country would ever let this happen. None. What else? The DOJ, Department of Justice, will, they will charge the person who is defending themselves against the rioter, but not the actual rioter. The person who caused the problem, nothing, because they're on the right side. There are still people in jail from the January 6th riot without charges. Meanwhile, we can't hold members of the Taliban without charges. We have to Mirandize the Taliban. plotting terrorist attacks. We have to shut down Gitmo because their civil rights are being violated. Meanwhile, American citizens are in jail for parading. Yes. Insane. Ridiculous. Nancy Pelosi wants to have a bipartisan commission, but the two people who are nominated to be on the commission by the Republicans, she doesn't accept them and puts people she wants on there. So she has Republicans on there who are rhinos, like Liz Cheney, but doesn't put people that the Republicans pick. That's not how it's supposed to work. Each side puts their own people on there. The majority party gets more. You know, if it's a 5-person committee, the Democrats are in charge, they get 3. The Republicans get 2. The Republicans pick who they want. The 2 that they want. But Nancy Pelosi rejects them and puts her own people on there. Puts the rhino Republicans on there. But the DOJ, just again, with all this chaos going on, with all the, with all the, COVID and all that, people aren't paying attention to some of the little things. They dropped all charges against the people who were charged with spying for China. So Chinese spies who were working in a lab in the U.S. were spying for the Chinese government, stealing intellectual property. No charges. All charges dropped. The Justice Department dropped the charges against Cuomo as well, but they had a private investigation look into it. And now they're not going to impeach him because he resigned, so they're not going to go after him, impeaching him, even though, because you can't impeach them if they're not in power anymore, unless the name's Trump, of course, obviously. But when what rules apply to one, not to the other, that's when the problems really start. People always say, oh, why does it matter? Oh, who cares? Well, if it happened to you, you would care. And you should care if it happens to other people. Because eventually, it could turn around where now a conservatives and a Republicans in power, and they're doing the same things to the Democrats. The Democrats are doing to the Republicans. And you'd care then, wouldn't you? And that's why it shouldn't matter if you like the person being prosecuted or not. The law should be the law. Rules are rules, regardless of the person who's affected by it. You know, if a rich white man is robbed at gunpoint, or a poor black woman is robbed at gunpoint, the law should still apply. Doesn't matter who is affected. The law should still apply. And the DOJ is refusing to do that. I saw something, I don't even know who it was, some clown on, some blue checkmark clown on social media was saying, had a picture of Biden wearing a mask, by the way, fully vaccinated, wearing a mask. You know, walking down a hallway as if like, with nobody near him, of course, because, wearing a mask by yourself is what you should do. And nobody near him, and he's just going to, do his thing. He's just going to, go fight with the teleprompter and lose, like he always does. But the politician put a picture up of Biden saying, look, he's doing a great job, and no mean tweets. Like, that's it. He's doing a great job and no mean tweets. First of all, he's doing a terrible job. Second of all, he doesn't know, no mean tweets and no golfing. First of all, Biden he's not doing a great job. He's doing a miserable job. That's why his approval ratings in his first year, most presidents, when they're elected president, their approval ratings stay like in the high 70s for like, or at least mid 70s for their entire first year or first year and a half. His approval ratings are under 50% now. Getting closer to 30%. 1. 2, he doesn't know how to use Twitter. He doesn't know how to use a smartphone. He was making calls on his campaign. He didn't know how to use the phone. 3, he's too old to golf. You know who else would be less mean than Trump? Is a corpse. Why don't we like the corpse next time? Put a literal corpse, someone who died in 1890. Maybe one of the Civil War generals. Why don't we make them president? They'll all vote Democrat anyways, right? So might as well elect one. But that's really all that matters, right? It's really all that matters. As long as they're not mean. And when Biden got in power, they say, "Oh, at least there's no more, mean. At least there's honesty back." And they don't lie like Trump did. Trump exaggerated. He was an exaggerator. That's what he did. He did a lot. He always exaggerated. He said it's the greatest thing ever that ever happened. The worst thing ever happened. It's horrible. It's great. It's wonderful. It's terrible. It's 100 times better or 1,000,000 times worse. He exaggerated. Okay, he was an exaggerator. Exaggerating is still lying, but it's not like what Biden does when Biden just makes up facts. Just says things that aren't true. And nobody fact checks him. Right? So, one of the Gold Star moms who's angry about Biden handling the withdrawal of Afghanistan, her son got killed. He gave her a half-hearted apology, and she posted something on social media about how the blood is on his hands and how he should resign and blah, 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 and had a couple of explicitives in there. Well, they censored her thing and kicked her off Instagram. Meanwhile, they don't censor anything. You could go on social media right now and say Biden is God. Biden has single-handedly cured cancer. Biden is the greatest thing to ever happen to America ever. Biden got rid of COVID. You could whatever you want to say. Say anything positive about Biden or any Democrat, you won't get censored. But if you say something that has could be slightly interpreted differently, you get censored. Canceled. And again, it only happens one way. So these liberals, who are not even real liberals, they're totalitarian communists. Because if you're a liberal, you'd be standing up for people's freedoms that you disagree with. You'd be the John Adams defending the soldiers of the Boston Massacre because they deserve to have their case heard. And he got them acquitted. But if we like you, if we like you, you can do what you want. If we don't like you, we'll prosecute you. We'll find a crime. And that is not a country we should be living in. That's not acceptable at all. Finally, wrap up here. I haven't recorded since the whole Andrew Cuomo thing went down. I'll talk about that quickly here. So I didn't think Cuomo would resign. I thought he was going to fight it to the end, but I'm willing to bet that he cut a deal with the DOJ, with the Congress, with the state legislature, so they won't impeach him, so he could run for some office again if he chose in the future. I'm willing to bet he cut a deal, so he doesn't have to worry about spending all his millions of dollars, that he got in the book deal and everything else. He did have to give back the Emmy, of course, but he, instead of having to spend all his money to defend himself, he can just ride off the sunset with his $12 million, $18 million, and live a comfortable life. He pulled out of the senator's mansion and left his dog, by the way, his family dog. They said, "Hey, Mr. Governor, you left your dog here in the house." "Oh, I don't want it." What a sick bastard. How disgusting. You're not a good person if you abandon dogs. Sorry, you're not. But he's the greatest thing ever. He was the greatest thing since sliced bread, but again, he no longer became useful. He was no longer useful to the Democrat Party. So, goodbye. That's how it works. If you're useful, you can do literally anything you want. You can dress up a KKK hat, a KKK outfit. I mean, you can wear a KKK outfit. You can wear blackface, like the governor of Northam of Virginia. Is a Democrat. You can do that. That's fine. And there'll be some calls for you to resign or whatever. But as long as you wait those out, eventually the president will campaign with you. Because it's fine. But Cuomo, again, I'm sure he cut a deal. I'm sure he made it, he worked with somebody so he wouldn't have to give up all his money and all this, everything, and be prosecuted and all that stuff. So I'm sure that's what happened. But the hilarious part of it, again, and I beat the Cuomo thing to death last show, so I'm not going to go into it much more here. I am definitely surprised. They said especially when they came out and said they weren't going to prosecute him. I figured it was all going to just be swept under the rug, like it tends to do. But in this case, I think he cut a deal, and that's kind of how he got around it. And obviously, they had a third party investigate it. But the great irony is the last three governors of New York all got taken out with sex scandals. All of them. And now Kathy Hochul, the interim governor, she's a puppet. She'll do exactly what her bosses tell her to do. She's not going to do anything other than what Cuomo would have done. She just has no thoughts on her own. She does exactly what she's told. She's a very good foot soldier for the Democrat Party. She's from upstate New York. Some people upstate New York are really excited. They have a governor from upstate New York. She doesn't care about them. Not gonna do anything to help upstate New York. And the first female governor too. So you won't be able to say anything about her because that's sexist. But as soon as Letitia James wants to run for governor, they're gonna be saying Kathy who? They're gonna throw her aside so quickly. They won't know what hit them. But obviously we had Governor Cuomo taking down the sex scandal, David Paterson taking down the sex scandal, and Eliot Spitzer taking down the sex scandal. And it's something in the governor's mansion in New York, or Albany, I guess, that makes these people act like animals and idiots. But the hilarious thing is how full circle things come, right? Because if any of you remember, when Spitzer got taken down, right? Governor Spitzer was taken down for his dealings with prostitutes, right? Anybody remember? I don't know if anyone remembers this. Who was the attorney general who did the investigation into Spitzer? It was, if you don't remember, the attorney general who ran that investigation into Spitzer was a very driven, a very a young man with a lot of political aspirations, who was the attorney general at that time. A young man by the name of Andrew Cuomo. And as turned out as fair play, when he becomes governor, the new attorney general with political aspirations takes him down for a sex scandal. It's pretty sweet. It's pretty delicious. I mean, a few months ago, a few months before the election, they were talking about Biden. If Biden falls apart, we might replace Biden with Cuomo, and Cuomo can be the next president. Now he's not even governor anymore. I hope they still prosecute him. I doubt they will. I'm sure that's why he resigned. I'm sure he cut a deal. I'm sure he held on long enough to cut a deal before he resigned. So I doubt there'll be anything else that comes of it. I'd love to be proven wrong. I'd love to see it happen. I just don't think it's gonna happen. Be sure to subscribe so you don't see anything. So you don't miss anything, I should say. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss anything. Like our page, facebook.com/Payment Productions. Subscribe to the YouTube channel right below. Got a lot more coming in the next few weeks. I'm sorry it took so long to get everything out. Obviously, this is a super packed, jam-packed episode, way longer than I normally go. But we had a lot to get caught up on, and we had a lot to talk about. So be sure to subscribe so you don't miss anything. We'll kind of try to get them out weekly or every 2 weeks at the most. Like our Facebook page, facebook.com/Payment Productions. Email us directly at paymentproductions@gmail.com. And like I said, you can subscribe right below, tell your friends, share the post, comment away. Thanks for listening, as always. I'll get another one out soon, so stay tuned. Until next time, bye, Dan.